Welcome to the 24K Life Podcast. I am your host, Derick Gant. I am excited because I get to talk about something that I absolutely love to talk about, which is fitness and finance, right? I mean, we get to talk about how to live a healthier lifestyle. And you know what? We're talking to you men. We're talking to us men that are, you're getting a little bit too wide, a little bit too unhealthy, but you still want to look good, feel good, to be around people that do the same. So, we are excited because this is a non-threatening conversation. This is the kind of conversation you should be having with your bros, man, your boys. You should figure out how to elevate your game. Even when you're making the money, you're bringing that money in. I don't know where my money button is, but you know what? This is something that helps you make more money because health is wealth. And the healthier you feel, the more you'll kick out. But we're gonna let Luke tell us what the deal is. He's the professional. I am Derick Gant. We love the 24K Life. The 24K Life is all about how to live your best life. Now, in order to become gold, in order to become like gold, you have to get rid of that belly, man. Now, normally I don't say that. Normally I say we have to get rid of our limiting beliefs. We got to get rid of our procrastination. We got to get rid of the things that are holding us back. But that belly, man. So anyway, I got an expert. He and I hooked up. We start chit-chatting, man. He hit me up on LinkedIn. We start talking. I'm like, bro, got to have you on the show. Got to help our bros figure out how to stay healthy when they're so doggone busy. So I bought in a pro. Now listen, I'm bringing in the all-stars. You have your guys that make the 53-man roster. You have your guys that are on the practice squad. You got your guys that are on the field, and then you got your all-stars. Luke, what's up, my man?
What's up, Derick, man? It's a pleasure to be here, dude. I love the energy of the show. I really do.
Hey, man, I'm great. And I'm excited to bring you on the show because you know what, bro? So I'm going to let you introduce, your background and how you got to where you are. But let me tell you, man, over the last 30 days, it's a little bit more than 30, about 40 days, I started this challenge called the 24K Life Challenge. And it's a soft version of 75 hard.
Okay.
So, so what we're doing is we're only doing one workout a day, and we're doing reading 15 minutes and 20 minutes of quiet time. Of course, you have to have a certain meal plan. And then the last thing is that you have to get in a certain amount of steps. Now, I don't tell these people about their meal plan. I don't tell them about their steps, but they have to make it a challenge for themselves. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is because I did it for my boys, right? We're all 57, 58, somewhere in that world. I'm 57. Most of my friends are older than me, but not too much older. And they all, not all of them, but most of them, man, they don't need a TV tray, bro. They just take their plate, they put it right on top of their belly, and
Sure.
they can cut, their plate can stay right here. And I said, fellas, we got to figure out a better way to live our lives so we can live longer and healthier, not just longer. So with that, man, why don't you give us where you hail from and what your background's all about?
Sure. Well, before I do that, congratulations for being a shining light to your friends, because at 57, obviously you look 30, and I know you perform well, and you walk the walk in that department. So I'm sure you're a very good guiding light for those men. So they're very fortunate to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, as far as my background, like a lot of people in this profession, it kind of started through sport. I grew up, playing sports, wasn't a great athlete by any means, and went to school, and those activities ended for me. And I was in college in an accounting class because I was going to school for business, not really sure what I wanted to do. And then in this accounting class, I have this realization of, wow, I hate this stuff. I didn't like it. Right. And I started thinking about what are the things I'm actually spending my time outside of class reading about? And it was nutrition, it was exercise. And so I think it was my 4th year of school, I actually changed universities and joined a kinesiology department, which is the study of movement.
Right.
And I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do within that arena, but I knew I had the opportunity to marry kind of 2 passions, the ability to make an impact and help people, which was important to me, and then the idea of exercise science and nutrition. And so again, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that, but I was at least marrying interests, and I didn't want to, stab my eyes out when I was in class. So that was an indication of like, this is a direction to move. And then from there, I ended up moving out to California from Illinois. So I'm originally an Illinois Midwest guy. And
you look like a California boy, though, bro.
Hey, I'm working on getting this tan. This is about as tan as it gets, and it's still pretty pasty white. So this beard is red. Well, it's white now, but it used to be red. So the sun, I'm trying my best. Cali's treating me well. No complaints. It's hard to have a bad day in San Diego.
Love San Diego. I visited. Now, I had heard all these amazing things about San Diego most of my life, and my nephew plays football, Division I football. So we went out. They played San Diego State. Okay. And I had been, I've been following him around for freaking 4 or 5 years to all these different places for his games. And when San Diego came up, there's no way I'm missing that game. I've got to go check out San Diego, and it is everything that they say it is.
Yeah, it's pretty. We're pretty spoiled. I mean, I always joke, and for the people who I meet who are locals and are from here, and I go, "Oh man, you're like a tropical plant. Like you can't move anywhere. Like you wouldn't survive where I grew up, right? Like you can't handle February in the Midwest. Like you will wither.
No chance at all. I don't care how many coats you put on, you're not gonna make it."
Yeah, now I'm fairly acclimated. I've been out here, I think, like 15 years. So I'm now one of the people when it hits, 85, I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's so hot. And when it hits, 65, I'm like, oh man, it's freezing out. So yeah, I've gotten soft myself.
All right. Well, listen, tell me who is your, and I don't want to ask it this way, but I'm going to anyway. Who's your like ideal client? Who do you work with the most and get the best results for?
Sure. So I primarily work with about 30 to 50-year-old entrepreneurs.
Yeah. See, that's what I thought. That's why I asked the question. I kind of figured you was right down my lane. Go ahead.
Now I will say this too. And when I hop on a show like this, the concepts that are necessary to improve your health and fitness, they're going to be relative to women as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've worked with lots of women in the past, and there are some specific, I think, challenges that women do face in this arena. But if you're a lady who's listening to this, understand the tactics and the strategies and like the ramifications of doing or not doing, it's all applicable to you as well. But yeah, at this point, I work with businessmen they're pretty busy. They're fairly successful. And oftentimes that success came at the cost of them kind of backseating their health and fitness. And
you heard my intro. Did you hear my intro? I'm telling you, man, they're making the money and now they can't move. It's like, You're like, dude, don't you want all of it? You don't want some of it. You want all of it.
Absolutely. And that's the reality. I think the first point for people, it really is this recognition or acceptance or kind of taking a leap that, hey, everything, including my business, is going to operate better if I myself am operating at a better degree. Mm-hmm. And a guy like yourself who's fit, you know this because you're there and you have a taste for it. And you know when you get sick, how terrible you operate and feel. Yeah. And it's one of those things that you almost have to go on a little bit of a leap of faith and look around at like someone like yourself as, proof of concept that, hey, if I do make these improvements, there is going to be a big payoff because you won't experience it until you get there. And a lot of guys don't recognize that, man, they're operating kind of in a second gear and there's a third and fourth and fifth that's waiting for them. And it's sad to me when I look at guys and I see guys who their peak physicality was when they played a high school sport.
Right.
And it's like, so over half of your life ago was when you were at a peak physical specimen and it's all been downhill. Like that's a lot of life to live deconditioned and you are limiting yourself in a myriad of capacity.
I'm getting way off topic here, bro, but I told you when we talked that you don't know where you're going to go when you talk to me, but what I always am amazed at are the guys that want the trophy wife and look like crap. I mean, it just amazes me. Now, don't get me wrong. They obviously can get them because they do, but don't you want to be able to be completely equal or better? I mean,
yeah. And this whole vein of conversation, I'll take a small step back and say, man, like I lead with like empathy and care. And so like, there's no judgment to somebody who is in the depths of this challenge.
Right.
And there's no like be a badass mantra. Like that's not how I coach.
Yeah.
But
I'm not judging. I'm just saying, you work so hard. Don't you want it all?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it comes down to, from an attraction standpoint, it's like, it's great to have success and status and finances and charisma and all of these other attributes that are attractive, obviously to women. But at the end of the day, it's like, I also want to have a little bit of an animalistic attraction.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I want to be desired even in that capacity as those guys do to their wives. So,
right.
You don't have to be the guy who's like, yeah, I got the car and I got the watch and the status, but man, the pool boy still is catching her eye.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, so how do these guys or your clients, men or women, what's the mental side of them making a decision that they, is it that they just decide, or is it some doctors telling them, look, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to crash and burn real fast and hard?
Man, that's a great question. And I wish I had a really good answer I wish I had that answer because it'd be a lot easier to help people. And the reality is,
well, just the people that you work with, when they come to you, do they come to you because the doctor is like, look, or do they get to some point in their life and just the people you work with, in your opinion? I'm assuming you ask them like,
yeah, it's all over, man. Is
it?
Yeah. Cause there's, like going and getting, for some guys, like going and getting a medical screening, like that's the final straw. But then, it's like, man, how many people are, we could get to the point where people are smoking out of their trachea holes. Yeah, right. And it's like, that wasn't enough.
Right.
So it's different for every guy. When we do work together, we do craft out what we call the big why and helping them identify like, what is the big value? So like if they have kids, that's really an easy one because again, if you have that medical scare or you go to play with your kid and like you can't keep up, and the idea of like that I throw to guys, it's like, hey man, are you or another guy going to walk your daughter down the aisle on her wedding day? Because your actions are going to create that future.
Yeah, man, somebody said that. Was it
Ed Milet, man?
Ed Milet said that. Yeah,
he was like, I've used it with so many guys.
Yeah, that's what changed his life was. The doctor asked him, do you want to walk your daughter down the aisle, or you want her stepdad or new dad to take her down the aisle because you're dead?
Yeah. And so like, I've had different guys come in with, a scare from the liver enzymes being up because excessive alcohol, and that being like the final straw, even though, hey man, you were, 50 pounds overweight already. And so different guys are going to have different points to where like the straw kind of breaks the camel's back. But ultimately it does have to come down to a generally more of an internal drive. The doctor one doesn't get everybody there. Oftentimes it can be like the spouse, the wife kind of maybe mentioning, but even then it's like, how many guys, are sitting there and it's like what you just described, right, and they just plow right ahead. Right. So I think often it's removing the kind of acting as a catalyst and understanding that like there are simplified ways that are going to allow you to install health habits that aren't going to get in the way of what usually is their primary concern, which is business.
Okay.
Because that's the big one.
So how many of your clients, and I'm not saying number wise, just conceptually a little bit, but how many of them are in person and how many are like virtual?
Oh, everything I do is virtual at this point.
Okay. Everything's virtual.
Yeah.
So I need some help. I can't, I won't even say what my buddy said. I will say what my buddy said. When I asked him for the channel, he goes, yeah, I think I need to see my dick.
I have a friend who, her dad, she goes, I got a Dickey Do. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, my belly sticks out farther than my Dickey Do.
Exactly. Yeah. So I need to tighten everything up, and I want to be healthier and I want to live longer. And I find you, what's my journey going to start like?
Yeah, obviously we usually hop on a call. We have a conversation to make sure you're actually committed to doing the work, because it is work, right? Like I don't got any secrets or hacks. I'm not selling any shortcuts. We're going to dive in and do the work. So it's a conversation obviously around what are you actually trying to accomplish? Trying to pry out what are those barriers to entry for you. And again, for a lot of guys, it's going to be time limitations.
Okay.
And then ultimately we craft out a kind of a progressive plan that's going to be built around a strength training component. We're going to leverage things like step count, like what you're doing with.
So before you go any further, let's be crystal clear. And I'm not asking for details. I'm just saying let's be crystal clear. So I go, yeah, man, I'm willing to do the work, but I can only. So what's gonna have you go? Nah, you're not ready yet, Derick. You're not ready yet. When you get to this kind of conversation, you're ready. What's that sound like?
Well, first, it's letting guys understand that the whole process operates on guaranteed minimum standards. Okay? So really, we make this work. We can make it work for whoever. Like, I mean, you have to be obviously willing. Like, hey, are you willing to do a change? Like, do you have a growth mindset? Like, are you willing to step up and actually, like, do you want this? And like, if you're wish-washy about it, like, you're not going to do it. Obviously, I can't pull you through this. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm an optimizer.
Right.
And I obviously bring in a ton of accountability. We bring in support and containers, and we try to close as many doors and windows for guys to escape as possible. But really, it does. And this is actually really important, I think, and why I kind of have I'm a little bit against the 75 hard, but we're going to operate under these guaranteed minimum standards. And this is really actually, I think, an important concept for guys to get, because I would say the average guy, when I have them fill out this rather lengthy intake form that touches on some, physiological stuff, some psychological stuff as well.
Right.
I ask, how many days can you realistically dedicate towards 45 minutes or an hour towards exercise?
Okay.
And I would say it's like 90% of guys say 7.
Wow. It's 7.
And it's like, no, you can't, because if you could, you would have done this. And so everybody's starting point, I scale them so far back.
Okay.
And there's some physiological reasons, but it's obviously more psychological. And the idea is we're going to execute on these minimum standards, and we are trying to build congruency of being the guy who does what he says he is going to do.
Yeah.
And the problem is most guys overshoot this so far. And the analogy I like to use is, if I invited you, Derick, or if you invited me actually for lunch one day and I no-show you, you're probably going to give me a pass and be like, oh man, Luke didn't text me, but maybe something must have came up. If I do it again a second and a third time, at that point, you're just going to write me off and be like, this guy's actually
100%.
Just not reliable.
100%.
So when you go and set these goals of, I'm going to the gym every day, and then you can't execute on that, you are now putting a weight on the side of the scale that you are not reliable subconsciously.
Right.
You are now stacking the weight on the scale on the side of, I am overweight. I am unhealthy and fit. And now you're building congruency on that side of the equation. And we have to reverse this train. And that train has gotten away for a lot of guys. A lot of guys have over and over tried to do it and failed. But when you look at what they're trying to do, it's so unreasonable. It's so unrealistic. These are the fad diets. These are the crash programs. And so we scale that way back to where minimum guaranteed standard. Minimum meaning, and guaranteed meaning, like, hey, if it's Friday night and you haven't hit the standard, sorry, honey, can't go out for dinner. I got to go outside and do this workout because I committed to these 2 workouts.
Right.
And then,
I love it.
Then we progress over time. So,
it's just so weird, man. It's just weird because I'm sure these cats that you're working with or talking to or filling out your form, they're really successful and great at what they do. And they're relentless, and they don't take no, and they don't take mediocrity. And then when you say, okay, we're just going to move that mindset over to your health, they're like, it's a 7. You're like, 7?
Yep.
Would you take a 7 in your production arm of your company? Would you take 7 in your staffing? Would you? No, they wouldn't.
It's interesting, and this is where I do enjoy working with the entrepreneur crowd. Is they do have this driven mentality, and they are often, again, particularly like the younger side of that that group, that they do want to perform well in all areas. These are guys that are, like I was just at a men's meetup this week with some peers and all business owners. And these are guys who are like, yes, all trying to work on their health and fitness. They're interested in working proactively on their relationships, and they're trying to optimize the process. And it is pretty shocking to have such disparity in something that should be so foundational. This isn't something that is this above and beyond. Like, as a natural human animal, you're meant to be healthy and fit. And not with the modern comforts of society. That's true. And Derick, you hit something that's really important for guys to understand is there is an environmental challenge in that our body has this expectation for low-level movement. We sit at desks all day. Right. The food manufacturing process that makes food so hyper palatable. You do have to go against the grain in today's society. You do. You have to. And guess what, man? Like, you already probably are. You're an entrepreneur. You already have that. And I would say one of the big things, the big like mental things that you're kind of hitting on is in business, and a lot of entrepreneurs, they are really good at taking a marketing launch mentality in business. Right. I got to hunker down and do this. And they can do it, right? They can shove off family obligations, lock themselves away, work 18 hours. But that's, again, a marketing launch strategy. That's not a business plan. Right. And your health and fitness has to come in more of that business plan side. You can't treat it like a marketing launch where, like, all right, for the next 14 days, I'm going to go really hard and solve this. No, you're not. This is a lifelong business plan commitment that we have to install. You're going to be dead in the bed, can't move sore if you try to take that approach. Exactly. Well, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. And I think that, it's just so interesting to me that people don't pay attention, even after COVID. COVID like kind of proved to some degree, like the strong survive, not to the full. There was plenty of healthy people that got it too. Sure. But not nearly as many people that, were working out and staying healthy and eating correctly. Go ahead. I was going to say, again, this comes back to like, man, when is enough, right? Like, if that wasn't if we were fortunate enough to survive COVID and you didn't have any major, health ramifications, it's like, I don't want to call it a warning shot, but like, man, it's a warning shot. You dodge that bullet. And it's clear that, yes, obviously, if you have, if you, the more unhealthy you are, the greater the chance that you were going to succumb to that. So, it comes down to like, when is that last straw for you? Yeah. Or, are you going to be ready? I mean, I was like, oh, wow. So let me tell you, man, about the challenge. So, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I look like I do what I'm supposed to do. So the proof's in the pudding, which is all well and good. But bro, when I got to the step portion of the challenge, I was like, they're like, well, go look on your phone and see what your steps are. And I'm like, oh, okay. So let me figure out like what my step challenge is going to be. So I get my telephone, dude, I was getting 2,000 steps a day on average, 2,000. And I already knew that like most people are trying to aim that are in the world are trying to get 10,000. I'm like, I ain't no way I'm going to get 10, but I can get 6. Right. Yep. So I said, okay, I'm going to triple it. And now that I'm actually doing it, I've been averaging a little under 8. It just was this explosion of like, dude, even though you're on the job, you're not on the job, and you have to really be in tuned with what's going on with your own self and what's healthy and what's not, and being that stationary 2,000. Yeah. If you said guess, I would have guessed I get 4 to 5. That's what I would have guessed, and I would have been way wrong. Yeah, that's so again, because that's a leverage point. And here's the difference. You are an in-shape fit guy. Mm-hmm. And so you could auto-regulate and not probably clearly you could just get 2,000 steps and you could maintain a great physique and probably a pretty good fitness level. Well, but I work out too. So right. That's what I'm saying. So like you've done the work. You're like staying in shape is actually quite easy. Right. And it's like, we got to do the work to get in shape. And when you have gotten out of shape, and particularly if we've put on weight, we are going to have to lean the scales. Mm-hmm. And yes, we want to leverage that step count, but you nailed it to where you look and you're like, oh my God, it's so easy to just be like, I only got 2,000 steps today because, and again, if you're working in your business, that is actually a harder leverage point to deal with for guys. And
Right.
generally the way that we're going to do it is it's like, first, you got to take an add in mentality.
Mhm.
Like, where can you add steps in that do not feel like a task or a to-do?
Right.
And so if, this wasn't, say, a video call, there would be no reason I shouldn't be pacing around my office while we have this conversation. If you're on,
I bought a standing desk, bro. I bought one of those standing desk things.
I'm on one now. I'm actually sitting. I'm sitting at it right now.
Okay.
But having a standing desk and understanding what tasks can you do. I always joke and say, man, me and numbers, not my friend. So I can't stand and do numbers. I got to sit down for the numbers.
Right.
But if I'm building out client programs, if I'm on a coaching call, there's no reason I can't be standing. And if I was truly say you're a day trader and you're really strapped to that desk and you're 14 hours a day, it's man, I'd have a standing desk with a treadmill.
Right.
And I would be doing a slow shuffle. You're not trying to work out while you're walking. You're trying to just slowly plod along.
Right.
And the more that you can add in steps where it doesn't feel like a task or a to-do, you want to start there. And then only after that do we add on, which would be, hey, it's 7 p.m. and I checked the steps and I'm only at $2,000 and 6 is the target and I have my minimum standard. So guess what? I'm going for a walk.
Yep.
And even on that walk, let's make it enjoyable. Put some music on, a podcast, right?
Absolutely,
take your girl out.
So I've been double dipping, man. So when I get my so if I need to get extra steps in, just like you said, I don't wait till 7 because I'm a tap out. I get up at 4:30, so I'll tap out. But but if it's honestly, if it's 6, 7, you're probably right, about 6 or 7, which isn't gonna work anymore here because it's getting dark around 7. But anyway, I'd go for my walk, and so you got 15 minutes of reading you got to do. So I put in an audiobook and I double dip. So what percent of a client's success, man or woman, has to do with the fork?
Oh, I mean, it's everything, right? It's everything. So, if we're talking specifically weight loss, oddly enough, we actually usually start with resistance training as far as what we install first, because there's a big, just emotional and there's a great psychological driver of that. But truthfully, if we're trying to gain or lose weight, the total calories are going to be the number one most important thing.
Okay.
And you cannot outwork that.
Can't outwork a bad fork, man.
You can't. And that's not some gimmicky little saying. And
it's a fact.
It's a physiological response that your body has. And everybody's experienced this. So I don't know if there's been a period in your life, Derick, where you maybe hadn't worked out frequently and then you got back into it, or maybe you tried a new novel thing. So I do jujitsu, and if I haven't trained jujitsu in say 2 weeks and I go, it's going to kick my butt.
Right.
Well, what happens is, say I go to a 6:30 class and I get home at 8 and it's hey, I'm going to do my steps when I get home. Man, as soon as I sit down on that couch, all of that intensity hits me and my body is going to auto-regulate me down and really discourage me from moving more to save those calories that I have offset.
Right. So
it is a physiological thing when you say we can't out-train our diet. It's not some just little cliche. Couple that with the fact that, man, the hyperpalatability, calorically dense food that does exist and that we all have access to,
right?
You really have to wrangle that thing. And this is where a big mistake is made, and it's going into the extremes. You don't need to go into the crazy stuff.
Right.
But we absolutely have to manage that portion. And if you don't take control of that, you're not going to have any success.
Yeah. I used to just marvel at guys, man, or people that, I used to I still go to the gym early in the morning, but the 5 a.m. club, and you'd see somebody and it would just dawn on you, I've seen them for 3 years on the same machine, and they look exactly the same, maybe a little worse. And you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And you obviously know because they're there every morning. So they're there, but you know that the rest of the day is crap. They're eating crap. They're not, they're not doing the things they need to do. So what would you suggest? I won't say number one. What is the top couple things that help move the needle for people that are kind of stuck? That, you know, I hate for people to wait until they get a health scare.
Yeah.
So outside of a health scare, what would you ask, or what would you say attention wise to someone, you know, if you're having problems touching your toe?
Yeah. So, you know, this is where everybody, it's funny. I get asked questions a lot like this anytime I
Do
speak.
you?
Yeah. When I speak on like a podcast, one of the common things is like, well, what's a simple thing somebody can do to get the ball rolling? And I wish I could say there's this one simple thing that you have to do, but the reality is you have to marry a few simple things for ideal results. Now, if we really could only focus on one thing, yes, the nutrition would be where you would place your focus if you're trying to lose weight. But if we marry a few simple things like some basic resistance training, increasing our step count, and again, a way that doesn't feel heavy, and then modulating our nutrition, you can get some really radical results in a way that does fit into your life in a pretty seamless way. Meaning,
I'm talking about mindset. I appreciate those tips, and those are 100,000% accurate. I'm just saying, how can you jar somebody's headspace to go, you know, I really need to do something, and I'm going to do something. Like give you an example. So my brother, like, it's like, for me, I don't lie to people. Like I'm a little too vain to get too big.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
For me, it's vanity. My brother doesn't have that vanity issue. So he'll go and he'll get bigger, man. I mean, he'll tilt 300. And he's done it a few times in his life. Now he's on a health kick right now, but you know, we've done challenges before where I got him on a kind of a 75 hard type thing, and some other guy, just challenges that we're doing, the 24 kid challenges for everybody. And we probably have way more women than men. Long story short, you know, what happened to my brother was he went to get on an airplane, man. And they made him buy 2 seats. Yep. And he goes, this is some bullshit. And he took responsibility. He goes, this will never happen to me again.
Yes.
And then he started working out, and it's never happened to him again. And he's been fit. I mean, he may vacillate a little bit, but for the most part, he stays fit. But that was something mentally that shook him hard enough that he was like, this is not going to happen.
And I do think, honestly, like, I don't have the answer to that. This is, again, the intrinsic
What would you
side.
like the answer to be? How about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, every guy, like, you're going to have your own crossroads. Like, they need that moment, right? And it could be, I mean, it can be, like I said, I had a friend who struggled with weight his entire life. Like, I'm talking morbidly obese since I've known him, and lost 250 pounds. And the catalyst was he went to chase his kid, and he had a heart murmur at the park. Woo! And from that day on, he killed the old version, and he grew it, and he created a new one. So you can try to, like, this is the whole thing when people say, like, man, I just need motivation. And I'm like, cool, I can't give you that. Can't give you that. Now you can look around and say, what am I limiting my life from the ability to do? Like, what is it that I would like to do that I'm not getting to do now because I'm dealing with this? Right. Or the slap in the face, like, hey, I got to buy 2 seats. That's ridiculous. Right. But I mean, it could be like, hey, I took my kid to the amusement park, and I can't ride the rides with them. Yep. Like, so every guy's going to come across his own turning point, and hopefully it's at the sooner the better. Right. Because until you get going on this and achieve like where you're at, you really can't appreciate how good you feel. Yeah. And that's the problem. Really can't. Oh, I got another question for you, bro. I'm glad you said that, because this is important for the people that haven't tried it yet. It's like really important. There is an exponential point. I know we're talking math here, but there's an exponential point between making the decision, getting started, and feeling better. Yes. And you got to get to that exponential point. Why don't you share with us about them? You know what I'm talking about? I mean, because, you know, there's a point to where, even if, for myself, if you go, hey, Derick, you know, I went on vacation. I came home. I was super busy, so I didn't work out. You know, that week turned into a month. That month turned into 3 months. And then I started working out again. And like, this is some bullshit. I can't take it. But once I hit that point, I was like, okay. Yeah, and you know, I don't know what like the time frame on that is, but it's like I kind of think of it like surfing. It's like how many people like go out like I'm going to go surf, or like I'm going to learn to play the guitar, and it's like, well, okay, you're out in the ocean with a board falling off of it, or yeah, you got your guitar and you're like slamming the strings around making noise, but like are you really playing the guitar? Did you really surf? And there is a level of commitment and result that you're going to need to experience before you're really like, oh, okay, wow, like the juice is worth the squeeze. Now, if that was jujitsu, I would tell you like, hey, you gotta train twice a week for 3 months to even decide if you like jujitsu. Right. Surfing, I would probably say something similar. The guitar, probably something similar. So I think you really do have to just make a commitment of like, I'm going to see this through for X period of time, and then I'm going to reevaluate, is it worth it? And guess what? Every single person that you know who gets into exercise and starts eating better, they become the most obnoxious person about it. They're posting their meals, they're posting their check-ins at the gym. And why? Because they feel freaking amazing.
Yep. I would offer, and I'm not an expert like you, but just to give people out here that've never done anything, some sort of measuring stick, some kind of plumb line, I would say is just like your jiu-jitsu. You need to do it for 3 months committed. Yep. And then you can decide, what's what. But after those 3 months, if you're committed and you put in 2 to 3 days, a minimum a week, and you're getting your steps and you're eating well, you're doing all the things that Luke's recommending. If you do what Luke recommending, and what did you call it? The general minimum. What did you call it?
The guaranteed minimum standard.
Okay, so if you hit Luke's guaranteed minimum standards for 90 days, you will never turn around on purpose. Now, you might twist an ankle and have to get laid up, or you might have to go on vacation or do some different things. You won't do it on purpose, though, because you feel it's amazing how much energy you get, an energy boost. You stop falling asleep at 3 p.m. or wanting to fall asleep at 3 p.m. and you get better. Now, where does like blood work and hormones and those things come into play from maybe some of your older? Do you recommend they get those things checked for clients to work with you?
Yeah, so you can absolutely pull labs, and then we'll coordinate with a nutritionist that goes over that blood work. And so, yeah, it's not a bad idea to pull labs in the beginning, and then you can pull them obviously at the end, and you can see those tangible results. Not everybody needs to do that realistically, just by making general improvements. You're going to see those improvements, but it is nice to have that correlating data of like, hey, I'm actually deficient here, and this would be a place that I could look to make some nutritional installments. And then to have that tangible, and that's another good smack in the face, right? Like, wow, my blood sugar levels are not good, and my liver enzymes are through the roof. And, so having some hard numbers, and if you have insurance, like, dude, it's cheap. Or even if you don't, it's like $260. You can pull your labs.
It's worth it.
Get some data.
I pull labs every quarter, man. Every quarter I pull them, and my doctor reviews them and tells me what's what, and we go from there. But I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your empathy and your political correctness for people. No, seriously, because if they listen to me, they're going, man, I'm not going to work out. But if they listen to you, they're like, okay, well, at least he's not demanding these things. He's got guaranteed minimums, and most guys are going to say guaranteed minimums. Let's get this cracking. Where's the gold package? Give me the platinum. Well, they don't want the platinum package. Trust me.
No, we got it. Hey, you gotta earn the right.
You gotta earn the right. Yeah, because you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a progression, right? Like we started minimum standards, but those standards get raised over time.
Absolutely. Well, Luke, I appreciate the time that you spent sharing your wisdom and your insights. Now you got to tell me, how can people get a hold of you?
Easiest place is just go to fitmenproject.com. I have all my contact info there. You can obviously look me up on social as well under those handles. I tell everybody, man, I'm a pretty open book, and I'll give you a good read on where you're at, what it's going to take to get you where you want to go. I always tell people, there's no hard sell for me, because you got to be willing to do the work, but there are more efficient ways to get you there, and you can absolutely turn it around.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you, Harley. I use the same philosophy. If somebody's not an 8 or higher, I'm not interested at all, like at all. Yeah. And an 8 is iffy. I got to talk to you first. You submit a form with an 8. We got to have a conversation, because what you do is critical to vitality. and vitality is life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So in any event, I'm happy that you are global in your reach and that people all over the world can touch base with you. You have a great spirit, a great heart, and a great approach that I think is very useful for people's longevity. So
well,
I would be terrible at it. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Come on, man. Come on. Where are you?
No, man. It's like I said, progressive.
There you go. I love it. Thanks, Luke. Stay in the green room for a second and I'll be right back.
Great.
All right, everybody. Listen, you know, there are very few things in life that we need help with. I will promise you that most people need help with their money. I mean, even rich people have advisors after advisors and accountants and CPAs that help them to be efficient with their money. The next thing that you need, of course, is a doctor. You need a doctor to be able to tell you where you're deficient. And then you need Luke, man. You need Luke to implement what the doctor's telling you need to do at some level, because it doesn't even matter. The older you get, the more stable you need to be, the stronger your core needs to be. And if you've not done it before, or if you're like me and you have done it before, the changes that take place, the things that you could no longer do, you need someone that is an expert to tell you not necessarily what to eat, but what to eat, how much of it to eat, how many calories, because I'm one of those people that will starve themselves. I'll do intermittent fasting for 3 days. And I'm sure Luke is just cringing going, bro, you need more calories, right? So what you think is the answer isn't always the answer. And you need to have a few key people on your immediate personal team that will guide you, that will learn about your specific needs to help you elevate. Now, I'm not here selling Luke. I'm not here selling the doctor. I'm not here selling anything. I'm here to sell you on the idea that enough is enough. And in America, we eat more bull-ish, more stuff that we shouldn't eat. We park close to the door, not far away from the door. We figure out how to make it as easy as possible. And that is not health. That is not the way to roll. And I promise you, if you ask Luke, here, we're going to bring Luke back. Is that the way to roll, Luke? Is that the way we should roll?
Not the way we should roll.
That's not the way we should roll. So I'm telling you that you need someone like that. And his disposition is amazing because, you know, I'm the old, you know, drill sergeant, right? You don't want to work with me. I don't want to work with me. That's why you work with someone that meets your needs, that meets your criteria, and has guaranteed minimum standards to start you at, that's keenly interested in helping you elevate outside of that. I'm Derick Gant. Hey, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Reach out to Luke and visit his site. Luke, what's the site again?
Fitmenproject.com.
What? You hear that? Fitmenproject.com. And you women, go on there and get your man signed up. Okay, you know you have influence over that dude. Go get him signed up. Sign him up for his birthday and Christmas. Honey, I love you so much. I want you around for another 25 years, so I signed you up to Luke. But like, share, and subscribe, and I appreciate all of you. I'm Derick Gant. Be your best. Bring your best. Leave nothing to chance.